students, welcome to the program. The topic selected for the program is General Principles of Test Construction and Standardization. The objectives set for the lecture are to understand the concept of a test, to get familiar with the characteristics of a good test, to understand the general principles of test construction and standardization. Dear students, measurement plays a very important role in the teaching learning process. Measurement of achievements of learner has been the major concern of the teachers and evaluators in the past. But today's teachers and evaluators are more concerned about students' learning and diagnosis of their weaknesses and inadequacies in instructional strategies for bringing about improvement in their learning than mere assessment of their achievement. One of the important aspects of measurement is testing. A test is a device or procedure used for confronting a subject with a standard set of questions or tasks to which the student responds independently, and the result of which can be treated in such a way so as to provide a quantitative comparison of the performance of different students. Psychological tests are one of the most useful tools of educational research. They are devised to evaluate or measure behavior in a standardized way for the purpose of selection, classification, prediction, and guidance, as well as the evaluation of educational programs. Tests consist of a series of tasks which the subject is required to perform, designed to measure general mental ability or intelligence, special abilities or aptitudes, creativity, personality traits, adjustment, interests, and values. Tests yield objective and standardized description of behavior, which can be quantified by numerical scores. Dear students, let's have a look over the characteristics of a good test. When we want to judge the characteristics and requirements of a test, we usually mean a good test is one that does what it is supposed to do. Test as an instrument possesses some qualities which are necessary before it can be eligible as a test and usable. A test should therefore possess some basic characteristics which include, number first, validity. When a test fulfills its purpose or purposes, that is, it measures what it is intended to measure and to the extent desired, then it is valid. Number second is the reliability. The consistency of test ability to measure accurately what it supposes to measure is its strength in reliability. It's the extent to which a particular measurement is consistent and reproducible. Number third is the objectivity. The fairness of a test to the subject is called objectivity. Biased test does not portray objectivity and hence is not reliable. A test that is objective has high validity and reliability. Number fourth is discrimination. A good test must be able to make distinction between poor and good learner. It must show the slight difference between learner attainment and achievement that will make it possible to distinguish between poor and good learner. Number fifth is the comprehensiveness. Test items that cover much of the content of the course, that is the subject matter, is said to be comprehensive and hence capable of fulfilling purpose. Number sixth is ease of administration. A good test should not pose difficulties in administration. Number seventh is practicability and scoring. Assigning quantitative values to a test result should not be difficult. Number 8 is the usability. A good test should be usable, unambiguous, and clearly stated with one meaning only. Now, dear students, let us discuss the principles of test construction and standardization. If we are interested to construct a test as valid, reliable, and objective, if we want to make it comprehensive, discriminating, and easily administered, there are some general principles and procedures which one has to follow. In general, all construction of all kinds of tools with slight differences involve few steps, which include number first, planning the test. Planning the test is the first step in test construction process. Planning of test includes a definition of the construct, the content to be measured, the format for the questions, and how the test will be administered and scored. Here the teacher will have to understand the objectives to be assessed, the examinee to be examined, and their test-taking behavior. It's careful planning which helps for better test construction. The teacher should be aware of the objectives to be measured, the purpose for which the scores have been designed, and the conditions under which testing will occur. Planning of test includes a detailed set of specifications in view of the purpose of the test and the time, cost, and sources at the disposal of the researcher or test maker. The nature of the population for which the test is to be constructed has to be defined clearly. The length of the test type and nature of the test items and methods of scoring the test are also some of the basic considerations which are to be planned in advance. At this stage, various decisions are taken and certain activities are completed. To obtain better results of the test construction, the steps to be kept into consideration are: number first, determining the purpose of the test. Number second, indicating the conditions which the test has to serve. Number third, defining the objectives to be measured. Number fourth, outlining the content area to be covered. Number fifth, selecting the appropriate item types to be included. Number sixth, preparing the table of specification or blueprint. The second step is preparing the test. At this stage, different types of items are prepared very carefully. In developing each type of item, related rules and regulations should be followed strictly. The whole test is prepared on the basis of the table of specification or blueprint of the test. Some of the most important points to be kept in mind while preparing the test, as mentioned by Stanley, are: number first, we must have more items in first draft of the test than decided to be kept in the final form. Number second, table of specification should be followed in preparing test items. Number third, most of the items should have 50% discriminative index. Number fourth, a preliminary draft of the test should be prepared. Number fifth, after a gap of some time, make a critical revision of the test. Number sixth, comprehensiveness and adequacy of the test should be maintained. Number seventh, the items should be arranged in ascending order of difficulty. Number eighth, objectivity should be observed at every step in preparing the test. Number ninth, a regular sequence in the pattern of correct responses should be avoided. Number 10th, the direction of the examiners should be as clear, complete, and concise as possible. Number 11, match the test items with the learning outcomes. Number 12, select only most representative items. Number 13, avoid all possible barriers in test items which create hurdles to examinees. Number 14, avoid providing any clues to examinees to help them answer correctly. Now the third step, that is trying out the test. At this stage, the prepared items are checked and tested thoroughly. Its purpose is to select the best items for the test. This purpose is carried out in 3 stages. First stage is pre-tryout. Pre-tryout stage is also known as individual tryout. Pre-tryout is done individually by the teacher or test constructor itself. In the achievement test, he has to check the complexity and ambiguity of language, grammatical mistakes, and other common errors involved in the preliminary draft. While making the preliminary draft of the test, the researcher or test maker must consult the existing tests in the concerned area. Such tests are helpful in constructing the items for the test. The preliminary draft must have more than double the items required for the test. This all is done by administering the test on a small group of subjects for the population. Second stage is group tryout. Group tryout is also called proper tryout. After the necessary modifications made in the light of expert suggestions at the pre-tryout stage, the preliminary draft is printed and the test is administered on the group for which it has been actually made. The size of the sample for tryout should be fairly large. At the tryout stage, the time limit should be generous. The test may be so timed that nearly 90% individuals in the sample complete the last item. In the end, the test booklet along with their answer sheets are collected and scored with the help of a scoring key. Then comes the item analysis. The procedure used to judge the quality of an item is called item analysis. The purpose of item analysis is to find out which item is good and which is bad, so that items which are ineffective may be eliminated and finally a good test item may be constructed. The item analysis is done on the basis of item difficulty index and item validity index. The difficulty index of an item is defined as the proportion or percentage of the examinee who have answered the items correctly. Abel in 1965 prepared an interpretation table of index of difficulty. Validity of an item means the extent to which the item measures the same thing which is measured by the whole test. In a way, it is an index of homogeneity of items. This is also known as discrimination index because it is calculated on the basis of discriminating an item makes between the top and the bottom group. In simple words, discrimination power refers to the degree to which an item discriminates between high and low achievers on that test. It is interpreted in the same way as correlation is interpreted. Higher the validity index, greater is its relation with the test. Then comes the final draft. Having made this kind of analysis, there comes the most important responsibility of the test maker, and that is to select the most suitable items for the final form of the test. Selecting or rejecting an item is a difficult job, as there is no universally accepted criterion of taking such a decision. Generally, those items are selected which have the discrimination index between 30 to 80 and validity index of 0.25 and onwards. But this is not a rigid criterion. Having selected the items in this way, they are arranged again to prepare the final form of the test. This may be either cyclo-styled or printed for use as may be considered necessary. The fourth step of test construction is evaluating the test. This is the last step of test construction. This step is not essential for teacher-made tests, but in case of standardized tests, this step should be followed. In this step, a particular process should be adopted as first, the reliability determination. The final format of the test is ready after the first administration. Now again, it is administered on a new sample so that reliability coefficient may be calculated. For this purpose, the size of the sample should not be less than 100. Usually, we expect a very high coefficient in determining reliability. The second thing is validity determination. After finding out the reliability of the test constructor determines its validity. For this, he compares his test with some external criteria. The computation of validity should not be done from data collected for item analysis, but it should be done from another independent data. This process is known as cross-validation. General statistical methods to find out validity coefficient are Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation, point biserial coefficient of correlation, chi-square or phi square, etc. Then to set the norms. At last, the test constructor prepares the norms of the test. Norms are prepared to properly interpret results. As we know, the obtained scores of the test do not tell us about the major traits or characteristics as its own. But when these scores are compared with norms, then immediately meaningful interpretation is obtained. Common norms are age norms, grade norms, centile norms, and standard norms. The most important factors in developing norms is whether the sample is truly representative of the population. Thus, the sample should be randomly selected. And one should try as far as possible that the sample should be representative of all the sects of population. The fourth one is the preparation of test manual. The last step of the test construction is the preparation of test manual. In this manual, test constructor mentions the psychometric properties of the test and tells about the references and norms. He vividly describes the process of administration, scoring method, and the time limit, if there, to complete the test. Now, the test constructor, in view of the need and in parallels of the test, gives the printing order. Dear students, we may conclude that constructing a good test requires hard work on the part of teacher or test constructor. Construction of test is an art, not a science. To master this art, a teacher will have to undergo specific training. He should be aware of the fact that there are well-established, valid principles of test construction which should not be ignored. Dear students, I hope you understood the content. I hope you enjoyed this program. Thanks for watching.